her on a small stool were chin-chin, plantain chips and groundnuts, her snacks for sale. Comfort was only 18, but her eyes carried wisdom older than her age. Life had not been easy, but she smiled through it. Her mother was sick at home. Her father had passed when she was small, and her younger brother, Chuka, still in school. So Comfort worked. Every day, she sat by the roadside, not far from the market gate. Her face glowed, her dimples deep, and many who passed would whisper, "This girl fine like tomorrow." But Comfort didn't mind the stares or the small talks. She believed in hard work and keeping her head high. Then Amanda returned. Amanda, her old friend from childhood, had gone to Lagos 2 years ago. She came back with shiny nails, high heels, and a small iPhone that she held like a trophy. When she walked into Comfort's store that evening, Comfort almost didn't recognize her. "Comfort, baby," Amanda said, her voice high and sweet like sugarcane water. "Amanda, is this you?" Amanda smiled, flashing white teeth. "Me na, Lagos find me well, well." They sat together, laughing and catching up. But then Amanda brought out her phone. "Come and see something," she said, tapping her screen. "Look at these girls. See their hair, their clothes. They live in fine houses, travel to Dubai, eat in big restaurants. Na so dem dey now. This one na Blessing, my paddy from Lekki. This one, Rita, she just got new iPhone 14. Comfort scrolled through the pictures with wide eyes. The girls were posing beside cars, swimming in blue pools, smiling with perfect makeup. "They no even fine pass you, Comfort," Amanda said. "You dey sell popcorn here, but you fit live better life." Comfort laughed nervously. "But how dem dey get all these things?" Amanda winked. "Na small small smart move. You get the face, you get the body. Social media dey pay, my girl. No be this roadside hustle wey dey kill person under sun."
Through the sands and the sun's warm embrace, whispers of tales that time cannot erase. Adaugo sings where the rivers roam. Stories of wonder will call you home. From the drum beats loud to the stars so bright, her voice rises bold in the heart of the night. Every story an adventure untold, a journey crafted in courage and gold. Africa Tales by Adaugo, she sings.
Hello everyone. My name is Adaugo and you are watching the African Tales channel by Adaugo. Before we dive into today's video, please kindly click on that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you will be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now let's get into the story. Comfort went home that night quiet. Her mother asked her what was wrong, but Comfort just shook her head. She couldn't stop thinking about the girls on Amanda's phone. Was there really a better life waiting for her? The next day, Comfort found herself staring at her reflection in the shop's broken mirror. She saw a girl with soft brown skin and tired eyes. Amanda's voice echoed in her head. "You dey waste this fine body under sun." The thoughts refused to go away. That week, Amanda visited again, this time bringing makeup and a wig. "Let me dress you small. Just snap one picture for Instagram. Make we see wetin go happen," she said, laughing. Comfort resisted at first, but curiosity is a hungry bird. It pecks and pecks until you feed it. So she allowed it. Amanda styled her, snapped the pictures and posted it with hashtags. Hashtags Naija Beauty, hashtags Lagos Chic, hashtags Pretty Girls Only. Within an hour, likes poured in. That night, Comfort couldn't sleep. She kept checking the comments. "Wow, you are hot. DM me, baby." Some even offered money for friendship. Amanda came again 2 days later. You see, you don't blow small. One guy wey dey drive Benz don ask for your number. He say make I connect una. Comfort heart raised, but I no know am. She said, you no need know, na small small. Just meet am, talk well, take small money. Nobody go beat you. You know dey steal. Comfort looked down at her hands. The same hands that turn popcorn every day. They were rough. Her nails chipped. The girl on Instagram didn't look like this. She looked like someone who lived in an air-conditioned world, who never had to lift a finger. Just one outing. Wear fine dress, enjoy AC, chop correct food. You deserve am. Amanda whispered like a sweet devil. Comfort nodded slowly. That Friday evening, Amanda brought the dress. It was tight and short. Comfort almost cried when she wore it. She had never shown her body like that. But Amanda clapped for her. You look like a slay queen. They met the man at a restaurant. He was older, with a shiny wristwatch and sunglasses at night. He smiled too wide. He called her baby and touched her shoulder too much. Comfort's heart beat fast. Not from excitement, but from fear. She felt something was not right. After they ate, he offered to take her to somewhere special. Amanda gave her a thumbs up behind his back. Comfort didn't know how to say no. They got into the car. The engine purred like a lion. The light outside disappeared. Her chest felt tight. They reached a hotel. Comfort froze. I thought we were going somewhere to talk. The man laughed. This is where I talk best. She turned to Amanda, but Amanda was no longer there. The man reached out to touch her leg, but Comfort pulled back. Stop it, she said, shaking. He frowned. You want to form holy girl after entering my car? She opened the door and ran. She didn't care about her dress or the people looking. She ran barefoot through the streets till she reached her small wooden stall and hid behind it, crying. The next day, Amanda came. Why you run now? You for just chill small. Comfort looked her dead in the eye. You set me up. Amanda shrugged. Na the life, no be everybody fit handle am. Comfort didn't reply. She packed her snacks and cleaned her stall. But something had changed. Inside her, a war had started. And that war was only just beginning. Comfort's heart was heavy the next morning. The air around her felt thick, like it was closing in. As she sat at her stall, stirring the popcorn pot, the memories of the previous night flashed in her mind, and she tried to push them away. The laughter, the strange man, the feeling of being lost. She couldn't escape it. She had been so foolish. Amanda had made everything seem so easy. But now, Comfort knew there were consequences to what she had done. Her world, once simple and peaceful, had been shaken. She couldn't ignore the feeling that something was wrong, that she had made a dangerous choice. Chuka, her younger brother, came running towards her, his school bag bouncing behind him. He was always a bright, cheerful boy with dreams of becoming a doctor. Sister, good morning. He greeted her with a smile. Comfort forced a smile back. Good morning, Chuka. He stopped by her stall, eyes sparkling. I did well in class today. The teacher gave me a star. She chuckled softly. I am proud of you, Chuka. You will be a great doctor one day. But even as she said the words, the weight on her heart didn't lift. Chuka was innocent, still living in the world of school books and games. Comfort had started to wonder if she was losing something precious, something that could never be replaced. She looked at her brother's innocent face and felt a pang of guilt. That afternoon, Amanda came again. She had her usual smile, the one that made Comfort doubt herself. How far now? She asked. You dey alright? Comfort couldn't hide the sadness in her eyes. I am fine. Amanda leaned on the table and glanced at the popcorn. You know, I was talking to some guys last night. They liked your pictures. They want to meet you. You can make real money if you just play your cards right. No more roadside selling. Comfort felt a coldness in her chest. Amanda, I don't want to do this anymore. Amanda blinked. confused. What do you mean? You don't want to make money? You don't want to live well? I don't care about the money anymore. I just want to be me. I've been thinking about things, the way I've been living. It's not who I am. I am not that girl on Instagram. I am not the person you've been telling me to be. Amanda's face hardened. You dey form sense now, abi? You go still come back when you see how others they enjoy. But Comfort shook her head. I'll manage my snacks here. I'll keep working hard because I know it's honest work. I've been a fool following what's not real. You may have all that glam, but I am not chasing it anymore. Amanda's eyes narrowed, but she didn't argue. She turned and walked away. But Comfort knew the friendship had changed. The bond they once shared was no longer as strong. It felt like a thin thread, easily snapped. The next few days were hard. Comfort went to her store every day, even when it rained. Even when the world seemed to move too fast around her, she felt the sting of loneliness. Some of the customers she once had, who used to wave at her and smile, now looked at her strangely, as if she were not good enough. The noise of the world, the pictures on Instagram, the flashy cars, it was all so distant now. But Comfort didn't give up. She didn't stop working, even when the hot sun beat down on her, and she was tired beyond words. She kept going. Each bag of popcorn she sold, each packet of granules she handed over felt like a small victory. She was choosing herself no matter how hard it was. One day, a man walked up to her store. He was wearing a faded t-shirt and jeans, carrying a small bag. Comfort smiled and greeted him as he approached. I see you every day, the man said, looking at her. You work hard, I can tell. People like you who keep going even when the world looks down on them. Those are the ones who truly shine. Comfort looked up at him, surprised. Thank you. The man smiled and pulled out his wallet. I'll take 2 bags of popcorn, please. She handed him the popcorn and he paid with a generous tip. Keep up the good work, he said, walking away. Comfort watched him go, feeling a warmth in her chest. It was a small act, but it made her believe again. Maybe the world didn't always recognize hard work, but she did. She would keep doing what she knew was right, no matter who came and went. Days turned into weeks, and Comfort's life began to settle back into the rhythm of the streets. The familiar sound of her popcorn pot popping, the faces of children stopping by, the hustle of life that she had known for so long. Amanda never returned. And as for Comfort, she had learned a lesson that would stay with her forever. That nothing truly valuable could be found in pictures or quick fame. The real beauty was in the simple things. The work, the sweat, the honesty of the life she was building with her own hands. Comfort had learned to trust herself again. Comfort's days began to follow a steady pattern. The rhythm of her life was simple, but in its simplicity, she found peace. Each morning, she woke early to prepare her popcorn and snacks. She worked with the rising sun, and by the time it set, she was often exhausted, but proud of the work she had done. The children who came by to buy were always happy to see her, and slowly, Comfort started to notice something. They didn't just see her as the girl who sold snacks. They saw her as something more. They saw her as someone who had the strength to stay, to keep going, even when it was hard. One afternoon, as Comfort was packing up her things, a familiar face appeared. It was Chika, one of the children from the neighborhood. He was about 12 years old, but his eyes were wise for his age. He had always admired Comfort from a distance, watching her work tirelessly. Comfort, are you still making your snacks? Chika asked shyly. Comfort smiled warmly. Yes, I am. You want some? Chika shook his head. No, I was just wondering. You know, my sister always talks about Instagram and how people make money there. Why don't you try it? I see how much you work, and maybe you could get more people to know you. More people could buy your snacks, you know. Comfort paused, looking at Chika. She thought about the temptation of social media, the way Amanda had painted it as a doorway to wealth and fame. She remembered the feeling of unease that had followed her after that first attempt. The man in the hotel, the false promises. She shook her head. "I've learned something, Chika," Comfort said softly. "It's easy to want what others have, but you can't chase other people's dreams and forget your own. My work here, selling these snacks, it's real. It is honest. No filters, no fancy pictures. I've been there, and I know that the best things come from staying true to yourself." Chika looked at her, his face thoughtful. "I guess you are right. It's better to work for what you have than to just look for something easy." Comfort nodded, proud of the way he understood. "Exactly. You have to build your own future, not just hope it will come because of a picture or a post. There is a lot of joy in hard work. Trust me, you will find your own path one day." Chika smiled brightly. "I'll remember that." And with that, he ran off, probably to continue his adventure for the day. But something inside Comfort felt lighter. She had spoken those words not just to Chika, but also to herself. She had reminded herself of the truth she had almost forgotten. That working with your hands, staying humble, and doing the right thing were worth more than any fleeting moment of attention. But as much as she had come to peace with her life, the world around her hadn't changed. The whispers of social media still echoed in her mind, tempting her to believe that there was more, that maybe she could still chase that elusive dream. But Comfort knew now that the dream wasn't hers to follow. Weeks passed and Comfort continued her routine. Then one Friday afternoon, something unexpected happened. A man in a crisp suit approached her store, his shoes polished and his tie neat. He looked out of the place among the hustle of the street vendors and market goers. Comfort glanced at him and noticed the serious look on his face. "Are you Comfort?" he asked, his voice smooth and professional. Comfort wiped her hands on her apron, unsure. "Yes, I am." He smiled politely. "I am Mr. Adewale. I work for a company that handles events. We are looking for someone to cater snacks at a large party next weekend. Would you be interested?" Comfort blinked. A catering job? For a party? She had never done something like this before. "I don't usually cater for big events. I just sell here on the roadside." Mr. Adewale nodded. "I understand, but I have seen your work. Your popcorn and snacks are well known in this neighborhood. People come to you because they trust what you do. I think you are capable of doing something bigger. We would like to give you the chance." Comfort's heart raced. She had never imagined herself at such an event, mixing with the rich and powerful, serving snacks at a grand occasion. But at the same time, it felt like a real opportunity, a chance to show that her small business could grow. "I can do it," she said quietly, more to herself than to him. "I will do it." Mr. Dewale handed her his business card. "Here is my number. Give me a call if you decide. I believe in your potential, Comfort. Don't let this chance slip away." As he walked away, Comfort stared at the card in her hand. It felt heavy, as if the weight of the decision had already begun to settle on her shoulders. She had always kept her world small, her small roadside stall, her simple snacks, the life she knew. But now, a door had opened. Should she walk through it? That night, Comfort sat on her small stool, the moonlight casting shadows over the store. She could hear the soft hum of traffic in the distance, the sound of people laughing and chatting, going about their lives. But here, in her small corner of the world, she felt a sense of calm. The offer from Mr. Adewale was tempting, but was it worth living the life she knew? Would catering at a big party bring her happiness, or would it pull her further away from what she truly valued? Comfort closed her eyes, feeling the cool night air on her face. She didn't have to decide yet. The road ahead would unfold, and she would follow it with her eyes open, knowing that wherever it took her, she would stay true to herself. Tomorrow would come, and with it, another opportunity. But for tonight, she was content. The days that followed felt like a storm had passed. leaving Comfort's mind clear but still troubled. She couldn't stop thinking about the opportunity Mr. Adewale had given her. On one hand, it was a chance to grow, to show the world that a girl selling popcorn on the roadside could do something big, something important. But on the other hand, Comfort felt a twinge of fear. Would this new path take her further from the life she knew? Would it change her like social media had once tried to? Comfort's heart wavered as she walked her store each day, selling her snacks with the same steady rhythm. She had gotten used to the looks from the children, the nods from the old women who would pass by, whispering about her, admiring her strength. They didn't know her story, but they respected her for what she did. That, to Comfort, was worth more than anything else. But now, there was this new possibility. She wasn't sure whether it would be a blessing or a curse. One afternoon, she decided to call Mr. Adewale. "Hello," came the voice on the other end. "It's Comfort from the snack store," she said, her voice a little shaky. "I was thinking about your offer." There was a pause on the line before Mr. Adewale spoke again. "I am glad to hear from you. Have you decided?" Comfort swallowed. "I want to take the chance. I want to cater at the event, but I am still a little nervous. I've never done anything like this before." Mr. Adewale chuckled, his voice warm. "That's the spirit. You don't need to be perfect. Just bring your best. And don't worry, we will guide you. We will make sure everything works out." Comfort's mind raced. Could she really do this? Could she step out of her comfort zone and be more than just the girl on the roadside? That night, she told her mother about the offer. "Are you sure about this, Comfort?" her mother asked, sitting up slowly from her bed, her face full of concern. Her voice was weak, a reminder of the sickness she had battled for years. "This is a big step. It might take you away from here. From me." Comfort nodded, holding her mother's hands tightly. "I am not leaving you, Mama. I'll always come back here. I just want to see if I can do something more with the work I've started." Her mother smiled weakly. "You have always been a hard worker, my child. Whatever you decide, I will support you." The next morning, Comfort woke up with
Holds the soul of the land, a symphony built by destiny's hand. Echoes of laughter and songs of the free, painted in hues of vibrant history. Follow her voice where the horizon blooms to a place of legend.
The sun had not yet settled, but Comfort's hands were already dusted with salt and pepper. She sat by her wooden table, flipping the hot popcorn in the old iron pot over the coal fire. Children passed by and smiled at her, some stopping to buy, others just waving. Beside her on a small stool were chin-chin, plantain chips and granuts, her snacks for sale. Comfort was only 18, but her eyes carried wisdom older than her age.
Through the sands and the sun's warm embrace, whispers of tales that time cannot erase. Adaugo sings where the rivers roam. Stories of wonder will call you home. From the drumbeats loud to the stars so bright, her voice rises bold in the heart of the night. Every story an adventure untold, a journey crafted in courage and gold. Africa tales by Adaugo she sings, where every story spreads its wings. A world of magic where dreams unfold. In her voice the secrets told.
next morning, Comfort woke up with a sense of determination. She was going to do this. She didn't know exactly what it would look like, but she knew she had to try. She packed her bags with a few bags of her best popcorn, chin-chin and granuts, and with a deep breath, she set off to meet Mr. Adewale. When she arrived at the venue, her heart thudded in her chest. It was a large hotel with shiny marble floors and gold trim. Everything looked so different from the roadside stalls she was used to. She felt out of place, like a small fish swimming in an ocean of sharks. But Comfort held her head high. Mr. Adewale greeted her warmly when she arrived. "You made it. I knew you would." He led her through the halls, introducing her to other caterers and workers who were setting up for the event. They all had a confident air about them, moving with ease in the world Comfort had never stepped into. But instead of feeling intimidated, she felt a spark of excitement. Maybe this was the world she could be a part of, too. "Don't worry about anything, Comfort," Mr. Adewale said. "Just set up your store here and everything will go smoothly. We will handle the rest." Comfort looked around. Her little roadside snacks, so simple, so humble, were going to be served to a crowd of well-dressed people in suits and gowns. She couldn't help but wonder, would they even like it? As the guests began to arrive, Comfort's nerves grew. She was about to serve food to people who didn't know her, didn't know the long hours she had spent perfecting her recipes. They didn't know the heart she had poured into each bag of popcorn. What if they didn't care? What if they just looked down on her work? But when the first person stepped up to her store, she forced a smile and handed them a bag of fresh popcorn. The woman looked at the snack, raised an eyebrow, and then took a bite. Comfort held her breath. The woman chewed slowly and then smiled. "This is really good," she said, nodding appreciatively. "Where did you get this from?" Comfort's smile widened. "I make it myself," she said proudly. The woman's eyes widened. "Really? This is amazing. I am going to tell all my friends about this." The next few hours were a blur of faces and smiles. One after another, people came to try Comfort's popcorn and snacks, and one after another, they were impressed. Comfort felt a growing sense of pride with every compliment, every new person who took a bite and looked pleasantly surprised. They were loving it. They were loving something she had made with her hands. By the end of the evening, Comfort was exhausted but happy Mr. Adewale came by to check on her. "You did an amazing job," he said, clapping her on the back. "I knew you had it in you." Comfort could hardly believe it. "Really? You think so?" "I know so," Mr. Adewale replied. "You are a natural. You've got something special." "Comfort, I think we can do even bigger events together." For the first time in a long while, Comfort felt the weight of doubt lifting from her shoulders. She had stepped out of her comfort zone, and in doing so, she had found something new about herself. Maybe this new path wasn't so scary after all. As she packed up her things and walked back to her small home later that night, Comfort knew that no matter how many shiny pictures of grand events came her way, she would always return to the streets, to her store, to the people who had seen her when no one else did. And that was enough. The days following the event at the hotel felt like a dream to Comfort. She had never imagined that her simple roadside business could lead her into such an extravagant world, where people praised her work and offered her opportunities she had only ever dreamed of. Yet, as the excitement wore off, a lingering question began to haunt her. Was she ready for all this change? Would her small familiar world still feel the same now that she had stepped into the bigger one? Comfort spent the following week working at her usual store, but this time, her mind was divided. Every so often, she would catch herself thinking about the grand banquets, the stylish guests, the smiles of approval from people who had never known her before. It felt like a different world, one that seemed so far from the heat of the roadside and the hands-on work she'd always known. One afternoon, just as she was setting up her store for the day, Mr. Adewale called again. "Comfort, I have some good news," he said with excitement in his voice. "We have another event coming up in 2 weeks. It's a charity gala, and we want you to cater again. This time, it's even bigger. The guest list is full of high-profile people, business tycoons, influential figures from. Precious Okafor was the kind of girl everyone in the town of Umuoma spoke about with admiration. She was beautiful, the kind of beauty that made people stop in their tracks. Fair skin that glowed like morning light, big brown eyes that seemed full of innocence, and a soft voice that made people feel at peace. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Okafor, were respected leaders in their local church. Mr. Okafor was the church's elder and led morning prayers every Sunday. Mrs. Okafor was the women's leader, always at the front line of every church activity. Together, they raised Precious with strict Christian values. She was the one who read Bible verses in church. She sang in the choir. She was the one mothers pointed at and said, "Be like Precious." But no one really knew who Precious was when the church doors were closed. In the privacy of her bedroom, with the lights off and the curtains drawn, Precious would whisper sweet lies to herself, lies that made her feel like she could wear two faces, one for the church and the other one for the night. She had boyfriends, not just one, not two, not even three. Precious had 4 different boyfriends, and none of them knew about the others.
Through the sands and the sun's warm embrace, whispers of tales that time cannot erase. Adaugo sings where the rivers roam. Stories of wonder will call you home. From the drum beats loud to the stars so bright, her voice rises bold in the heart of the night. Every story an adventure untold, a journey crafted in courage and gold. Africa Tales by Adaugo, she sings.
Hello everyone, my name is Adaugo and you're watching the African Tales channel by Adaugo. Before we dive into today's video, please kindly click on that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you will be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now let's get into the story. Precious had 4 different boyfriends and none of them knew about the others. One was a church drummer named Kelechi. Another was a businessman from Owerri who came to town twice a week. The third was a university student she met online. And the fourth, a married man who gave her money every time they met in a hotel far from town. She told each of them she was a virgin. She told them they were her first. She told them she was waiting for marriage. But the truth was, Precious had become so used to hiding that she didn't know who she really was anymore. Things began to change when she missed her period. At first, she thought it was just a mistake. She waited a week, then 2, then 3. Panic started to creep in. Her stomach felt strange. Her body changed. Her heart beat faster whenever she saw her mother praying at night. She couldn't tell her parents. She couldn't tell anyone. So she kept quiet and started counting days. When she finally went to a pharmacy in secret and bought a pregnancy test, the 2 red lines that appeared almost blinded her. Precious fainted that day in her bathroom. And then came the real fear. She didn't know who the father was. Too many lovers, too many lies, and not one person she could trust. She tried to talk to Kelechi, but he swore he had always used protection. The businessman told her not to call him again. The student blocked her. The married man laughed and told her she was not the first and wouldn't be the last. Her world began to shake. Church leaders still greeted her with love. Her parents still praised her in front of others. Nobody knew the war going on inside her. So she made a decision, one that many girls in her shoes had made. She chose to end the pregnancy quietly. She didn't go to a hospital. She was afraid. Instead, she went to a woman in a nearby village, someone who others said help girls in trouble. The room was dark. The air smelled of herbs and death. Precious was shaking. Her hands were cold. The woman told her not to cry. "You will be fine," she whispered. "It will be all over in a few minutes." But it wasn't. As the sharp pain tore through her body, Precious began to bleed. She screamed once, then twice, and then she stopped breathing. The woman panicked and ran. Precious was left alone on a cold wooden table, her blood soaking into the floor. The town of Umuoma woke up the next morning to shocking news. The holy girl, the pride of the Okafor family, had died. Nobody believed it at first. It must be a mistake, some said. Precious? Impossible. Others argued. But the truth has a way of showing itself even when buried. Mrs. Okafor collapsed in church when she heard Mr. Okafor locked himself inside his room and refused to speak for days. As the town whispered, as church members mourned, the mask of holiness began to crack. And slowly, painfully, the story of who Precious really was began to unfold. The morning of Precious' burial was grey and silent. Even the birds seemed to understand something heavy had fallen upon the town. The Okafor compound was filled with mourners, church members, townspeople, family friends, all dressed in black, sitting in quiet disbelief. But there was a different kind of mourning in the air. Not just the sadness of a young life lost, but the shock that followed the whispers. Precious? Pregnant? Precious with many men? Nobody wanted to believe it. But when her body was discovered and the examination revealed signs of an incomplete abortion, the truth could no longer be hidden. The same mouth that once called her a virgin, bride of Christ, now spoke in hushed tone of shame, betrayal and confusion. Mrs. Okafor sat under the canopy, her head tied with a heavy black scarf, her eyes empty. She had not eaten in days. Every night since her daughter's death, she sat by the candlelit altar in the house, asking God the same question. Why? Mr. Okafor, on the other hand, was not seen at all. He locked himself inside their bedroom and refused to come out. He didn't cry, didn't pray. He just stared at the picture of Precious on the wall, the one where she wore her choir robe and held a Bible. The church elders were uncomfortable. Their precious jewel, the one they used as an example in every sermon, the one they raised up like a light, had fallen. Some blamed the world, some blamed the parents, others just didn't speak at all. But not everyone kept quiet. 3 days after the burial, during the church youth meeting, a young girl named Chinaza stood up. Her voice shook, but her heart was firm. "We all pretended not to know," she said. "Many of us knew how Precious really lived. We saw her in town. We saw her with different men, but we said nothing. Because she was church girl. Because we were afraid. And now she's gone." The horn was still. Her words stung, but they were true. Another boy stood up. Then another. Stories poured out, not just about Precious, but about others. Boys and girls hiding their real lives because they were afraid of judgment, afraid of the shame, afraid of their own parents. It was as if Precious' death had opened a door that had been shut tight for years, hiding secrets behind smiling faces and Sunday clothes. Mrs. Okafor heard of the meeting. She went there the next week, trembling, wearing a simple wrapper, no makeup, no gele, just herself, broken, humbled. She stood before the youth and fell to her knees. "I failed my daughter," she wept. "I taught her how to pretend, not how to be honest. I taught her to fear us more than to trust us. I covered her with holy words, but never asked her what she was truly going through. I am sorry." Some cried, some were stunned, some just sat not knowing how to feel. But something began to change. Conversations started happening in homes. Parents asked their children questions they had never asked before, not to judge, but to listen. Pastors began speaking about honesty and mercy, not just rules. Girls who had once felt alone came forward with their story. Boys who were hiding in shame stepped into the light. Mr. Okafor, after weeks of silence, finally walked into the church One quiet evening, he did not wear his elder's robe. He sat at the back, eyes filled with sorrow. The pastor saw him and called out gently, "Elder Okafor, would you like to say something?" He stood slowly, every movement heavy. "Yes," he said, his voice dry. "I want to speak not as an elder, but as a father." The whole church listened as he confessed his pride, his blindness, and how he placed the fear of disgrace above the love of his child. "If I had listened more, if I had created a home where my daughter could be real, maybe she would still be alive," he said. There was silence again, a deep silence, the kind that reaches the soul. Outside, the evening wind moved through the trees like a whisper, and somewhere in that stillness, the spirit of Precious seemed to be heard, not in words, but in the heart she had unknowingly touched through her tragedy. The town of Umuoma would never forget Precious, not because of how she died, but because her story became the mirror through which many saw themselves for the first time. Days turned into weeks, and though Precious had been buried, her story refused to be forgotten. Like a seed buried in the earth, something began to grow. Quietly at first, then slowly, surely. Mrs. Okafor found herself spending less time in church leadership meetings and more time with the young girls in town. She would sit with them not as a leader anymore, but as a mother, a listener, a learner, and from those conversations, she began something new. A safe space she named Precious Daughter's Circle. The girls came quietly in the beginning. Some wore hoodies, some wore fear on their faces, but they came. And when they came, they spoke. One said, "My father thinks I am still a virgin. I am scared to tell him I made a mistake." Another whispered, "I am in love with someone my parents would never accept. I feel like I have to hide to breathe." One more, with tears on her cheek, said, "I nearly ended my life because I thought God would never forgive me." Each girl brought a burden, and for the first time, they weren't punished for their pain. They were held, heard. Precious' name became a symbol, not of shame, but of truth that must be told before it's too late. Meanwhile, Mr. Okafor, once the strict elder, began volunteering at the local school. He taught Bible stories. Yes, but this time, differently. He didn't speak like a judge anymore. He spoke like a man who had lost something he could never replace. One afternoon, after a lesson on the prodigal son, a young boy named Ebuka asked him, "Sir, what if the father had kicked the boy out when he returned?" Mr. Okafor paused. The whole classroom was watching him. "I used to be that kind of father," he said quietly, "the one who would have kicked him out. But now I know. If you close your door when your child is lost, you may never see them come home." The children understood that kind of truth. In church, sermons changed, songs changed, people changed. Even Pastor Emmanuel, who had once thundered about purity and judgment, stood one Sunday and said, "It is not only fornication that kills. Hypocrisy can kill too. Pride can kill. Silence can kill. Let us not bury our children before we teach them how to live." The congregation was stunned. Some clapped, some wept, but the words rang in the rafters like bells. Still, not everyone was happy. There were those who felt Precious' name should never be spoken again. "Why are we glorifying sin?" they said. "Let her be forgotten." But the truth was, she was not being glorified. She was being remembered, so others would not walk her path blindly. So others would not die behind fake smiles and holy clothes. One evening, Chinaza, the bold girl who first spoke out, wrote a poem on the church bulletin board. No one knew she was a writer. The poem said, "She was light, wrapped in shadow, dressed in white but crying inside. We were silenced like Sunday clothes and left her bleeding behind the choir stand. Now her story lives, not to shame, but to set others free." People read it. Some cried. Some tore it down. But by the next morning, someone had copied it and placed it on every classroom wall in the town. The next Youth Sunday, for the first time ever, The choir sang not just hymns but songs written by the teens themselves. Songs about real struggles, about temptation, fear, honesty, healing. Songs Precious would have understood, songs she might have written if she had lived. Even the children in Sunday school began to ask new questions. Can God forgive me if I make a mistake? Can I talk to mommy if I am scared? Is it okay to cry if I am hurting? And the adults, humbled by the echo of one girl's silent pain, began to answer differently now. Not with thunder, but with truth. One rainy evening, while Mrs. Okafor was clearing out Precious' room, dusting the shelf, folding old dresses and placing her daughter's untouched Bible on the desk, her hand brushed against a small notebook hidden beneath the mattress. It was blue, with a soft leather cover and faint gold edges. The name P was written on the front. Her fingers trembled. She sat on the edge of the bed, slowly opening the pages. What she read made her breath catch in her throat. Dear God, the first line began. If I die today, don't let anyone lie about who I really was. Let my story save someone else. Each page was a confession, a cry, a struggle, written in the raw words of a girl torn between the image her parents wanted and the life she was silently drowning in. She wrote about the loneliness of pretending, the pressure to be perfect, the fear of being real. She wrote about wanting love and not knowing where to find it, about making mistakes, about not knowing who to talk to. There were names, places, moments, and in between the pages, folded and pressed flat, were receipts from motels, from hospitals, from pharmacies, and then a letter addressed to her mother. Mommy, it read, I am sorry, not because I got pregnant, but because I never felt safe enough to tell you before now. I lied to you because I feared you would never love me the same. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should have trusted you. I wish I could go back. I wish I could be your daughter and still be myself. Tears dropped onto the page. Mrs. Okafor pressed the letter to her chest and wept. Not like a woman of God, not like a church leader, but like a mother who had just met her daughter too late. She took the notebook to her husband. They sat together, reading it by candlelight. Mr. Okafor said nothing for a long time. Then he whispered, she was crying for us all along, and we were too holy to hear her. That week, during a family meeting at church, the Okafors shared excerpts from the diary. Not all of it, just enough to show the truth. And it shook the room. Parents began to apologize to their children. Children opened up about secrets they had buried. A girl admitted she was being touched by a cousin. A boy confessed he had been struggling with drugs. No one mocked. No one shouted. That day, the church became a place of healing, not just worship. But the biggest shock came when a nurse from the town's small clinic, Sister Amaka, stood up after the reading. Her voice was firm. I remember the day Precious came to my clinic, she said. She was crying. She told me she had nowhere else to go. I tried to help her, but she left before we could finish anything. The room was quiet. I kept her file, she said. She gave me a name. The name she called was not one anyone expected. It was a young usher in the church, a boy named Samuel. Quiet, well-dressed, son of a deacon. Gaps filled the room. Samuel was not in the hall, but word spread quickly. He was summoned by the elders. He arrived, pale, sweating, confused. Is it true? Mr. Okafor asked him directly, holding nothing back. Samuel stammered, I didn't know. She never told me. We only once, I swear, just once. The truth hung heavy in the room. No one spoke for a long time. Then, from the back of the hall, Chinaza stood up again. Whether once or 100 times, she said, you were part of her pain. Own it. Samuel broke down. Right there, he knelt. I am sorry, he cried. I didn't think. I was scared too. I never thought she would. I never thought. Mrs. Okafor walked up to him. For a moment, it looked like she might slap him. Instead, She placed her hand on his head. "Forgiveness doesn't erase the pain," she said, "but maybe it can stop the bleeding." Outside, the sky cracked open and the rain poured. But this time, the rain felt like something new, like cleansing, like grace. As the rain fell heavy on Umoma that night, something else was pouring too. Truth. It had broken through years of silence, tradition, pride and fear. And while some hearts embraced it like healing rain, others recoiled it like it was acid. The very next Sunday, the church pews were half empty. Some elders refused to come. A few families pulled their children out of the youth group. Whispers flew like wildfire. "They are turning this place into a theater for disgrace. Let the dead rest." What kind of parents parade their shame in public? But for every person who left, 3 more arrived. Some came from nearby towns. Some weren't even Christians. They came not for religion, but for realness. The Precious Daughter circle grew. It welcomed boys too now, under a new name, Precious Heart's Safe Place. Teens sat in circles, sharing their truths, asking questions that had once been taboo. Why do we teach girls to fear men, but not boys to honor women? Why do we talk about sin, but never about pain? Why do we cover up what should be healed? One quiet girl, Adaugo, shared a chilling story. Her uncle had molested her for years, and when she told her parents, they said, "Shh, let's handle this in the family. Don't spoil our name." But now, hearing Precious' story, Adaugo found courage. The circle helped her file a report. Her uncle was arrested. Her parents, ashamed, at first blamed the church, but later they thanked them. Mr. Okafor, once a rigid man, began going encouraging them to listen more and judge less. He started a program called Fathers Who Feel, a safe space for men to unlearn harmful habits and rebuild trust in their homes. Even Samuel, the boy named as the father of Precious' unborn child, began speaking at youth meetings, not as a perfect example, but as a broken one. "I failed her," he said often, "but maybe I can stop someone else from making the same mistake." Some people still didn't trust him, but others, especially the boys, listened in a new way. Praise nights became moments not just for dancing and clapping, but for storytelling. Poems were read, testimonies given. Tears were no longer feared. They were welcomed as healing. Then one day, something unexpected happened. A large church from the neighboring city, St. Philip's Cathedral, sent a letter. They had heard of Umoma's transformation and wanted to host a Precious conference for teens and parents alike. They asked the Okafors to speak, Chinaza to perform a spoken word. Even Samuel was invited to share his story. The whole town was in awe. Once, Precious was a secret. Now, her name was starting conversations in cities beyond. What was once a tragedy had become a trumpet, calling churches, homes and hearts to wake up. But not everyone was ready. One night, Mrs. Okafor received a letter slipped under her door. It read, "Stop using your daughter's disgrace to gather praise. Let her rest. If you don't stop, something worse will happen." She froze. This wasn't just resistance anymore. This was a threat. She showed it to her husband, who held her hand tight. "Doing something right," he said. "And that's why darkness is afraid." They took the letter to Pastor Emmanuel, who once a fire and brimstone preacher, now had a soft wisdom in his eyes. He said, "We must not be afraid. The truth does not kill, it cleanses. Let the light keep shining." Still, the threat hung in the air like smoke. Was it just words? Or would someone try to silence them again? That night, as the town slept, a fire broke out in the community center where the Precious Heart Safe Place met every Saturday. By the time help arrived, the center was gone, burned to ashes. But in those ashes, something stirred. The sun rose slowly over Umoma that morning. Its golden light fell on what remained of the community center. Charred walls, twisted metal, ashes where laughter used to echo. The town stood around it, silent, broken, yet burning with questions. Who would do this? Why? And what next? Mr. Okafor clutched the edge of her wrapper, eyes swollen from crying through the night. Mr. Okafor stood beside her, his hand firm around hers, but his jaw was tight, eyes scanning the face around them. The children arrived too, the girls, the boys, those who had found hope inside those walls. Adaugo, Chinaza, even Samuel, who dropped to his knees in the ash, picking up a half-burnt piece of paper with precious handwriting still faint on it. No building can kill a voice, he whispered. Then came the whispers again, this time louder than before. It's a call. They should have let the matter die. God is not happy with what they are doing. But others stood taller. A young mother shouted back, so you'd rather children die in the silence than speak their truths? And just like that, the town split in two, those for the truth and those clinging to appearances. But the Okafors, they didn't argue. They built. Chinaza went live on social media, tears rolling down her cheeks, saying, they thought they could silence us with fire, but fire refines gold. We are rising. We will rebuild. And people responded from Lagos, Abuja, even Ghana. Donations began to pour in, not just money, building supplies, clothes, books, even laptops for the children. By the third week, the precious house of truth began to rise, this time on land donated by a widow who said, Precious helped my daughter speak for the first time. Take my land, build it strong. The new center had classrooms, counseling rooms, and a stage for performances. But more than that, it had people who truly listened. At the grand reopening, Chinaza performed a spoken word piece titled, Ashes Don't Lie. They burnt the walls, but not our words. They cracked the roof, but not our resolve. We carry precious in every breath, and from her silence we birthed a song. The crowd clapped, some cried, even some of the former critics stood at the back, unsure if they were watching a rebellion or a revival. Then something unexpected happened. A man stood up from the crowd, tall, grey-bearded, respected. He was Chief Damian, one of the wealthiest men in the region, and a staunch traditionalist. He took the mic, cleared his throat. My granddaughter took her life last year, he said, because I told her to be strong, not to be soft, to hide her shame. I buried her with pride, but I live with guilt. Today, I choose truth. And with that, Chief Damian pledged $500,000 to expand the precious house of truth across every local government in the state. The crowd roared, but the story wasn't over. One night, just a week after the center reopened, Mrs. Okafor found a brown envelope on her doorstep. Inside was a photo, blurry but clear enough. A picture of the man who had set fire to the first building. Her eyes widened. It was someone from within the church, someone they had once trusted, a respected man with deep connections. And now the real war was about to begin, not just of fire or rumors, but of light against darkness, truth against fear, and love against the cold grip of tradition. Mrs. Okafor stared at the photo in her hand, her fingers trembling as her eyes confirmed what her heart refused to believe. It was Elder Matthew, one of the most respected men in church, a man who sat on the board of trustees, a man who led prayers with passion and preached righteousness with a loud voice. But behind that voice was a burning secret. He had paid a street boy to touch the precious heart-safe place. Why? Because his daughter, Blessing, had joined the program and had finally opened up about how he had abused her when he was only 11 years old. And when she told her truth during a session at the center, he knew the walls were closing in. So he chose fire, not just to destroy a building, but to silence a movement. But truth doesn't stay buried for long. Mrs. Okafor brought the evidence to Pastor Emmanuel and the local authorities. At first, the church leaders were divided. Some said, let's handle this quietly. Others whispered, This will tear us apart. But Pastor Emmanuel stood firm. We will not protect wickedness behind the veil of holiness. If we lose everything standing for truth, so be it. But we will not stand before God with blood on our hands. Elder Matthew was arrested. His trial was public. His daughter, Blessings, testified bravely. Her words didn't just convict him. They freed other victims who had hidden in fear. Over 7 young women came forward during that time. And slowly, Umuoma began to shift. The church rebuilt itself, not in structure, but in spirit. No more false holiness. No more silence. No more shame for the broken-hearted. The precious house of truth expanded into 4 more towns. Chinaza became a national youth ambassador. Samuel became a certified counselor, using his past to help young boys walk a better path. And Mr. and Mrs. Okafor, they continue telling their daughter's story, not just in churches, but in schools, markets, radio programs, anywhere people would listen. They made peace with her past and honored her by changing the future. One evening, under the mango tree beside the new center, Chinaza led a group of children in a chant that had now become the heartbeat of their mission. We are not perfect, we are not pretending. We are precious and we are powerful. The wind blew gently through the trees. The sky above Umuoma was clear, no longer dark with secrets, but open, full of stars. And though Precious was gone, her voice echoed in every smile, every safe space. Every tear wiped from a child's face. Moral lessons. 1. Truth may cost you comfort, but silence costs lives. When we pretend to be perfect, we lose the chance to be real and to save others from drowning in shame. 2. No title, position or tradition should ever protect evil. Being a leader in church or society doesn't give anyone the right to abuse power. We must judge actions, not appearances. 3. Children deserve safe spaces. Not fear, not pressure, not fake expectations. Many children grow up with religious fear instead of spiritual guidance. It's time to replace judgment with listening ears. 4. Healing begins with honesty. The first step to healing is telling the truth, even if your voice shakes. 5. A single life can start a movement. Precious' death was a tragedy, but her story became the seed for transformation. Never underestimate the impact of one voice. Lastly, parents must be bridges, not barriers. Children need love, not perfection. They need safety, not just sermons. When parents become safe places, society begins to heal. We have come to the end of the story. If you love this video, please kindly share with your loved ones, leave us a comment on your opinion, and subscribe for another interesting video like this. Until I see you all on the next one. Bye for now.
Where every story spreads its wings, a world of magic where dreams unfold. In her voice the secret's told. Come sit by the fire and hear the song.
Precious Okafor was the kind of girl everyone in the town of Umuoma spoke about with admiration. She was beautiful, the kind of beauty that made people stop in their tracks. Fair skin that glowed like morning light,